Good afternoon, respected seniors, lovely juniors, and my dear friends. The sun is well past over our heads, and here we are with yet another episode of our series, Guru Se Guftagu. I, Ritik Prakash Naik, along with my friends Matha and Tanvi, welcome you on our show, which is perhaps a bilingual show, and in which we have with us, we invite our honorable professors for for an outside of the class talk. And today we have with us an extremely soft-spoken lady, a meticulous professor, a kind-hearted human being, and a charming soul who likes to talk about a wide range of topics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Madam Brahmaleen Sidhu. A very good afternoon, Madam.
Good afternoon, Ritik. Thank you. Thanks a lot for a lovely introduction.
That's my pleasure, ma'am. And before we commence the session, I am actually Mathu, me, and Tanvi are just curious to know how does it feel to get to be interrogated by your students? Like, how often do you find yourself in these kind of situations when you have to answer, some questions of your students? Please, madam.
I'm very often in this situation, but I'm never informed beforehand. So very nervous right now, just because I was informed. Randomly, yeah, being a teacher of a very innovative batch of students, a very inquisitive batch of students usually. This is a usual practice and my favorite part of interaction with the students.
Actually, on my part especially, it takes a lot of courage to ask something out of the class to your teachers, because actually it sends nerves down my spine. Like if I go off track, it can wreak havoc my career, my grades especially. So I'm quite a bit of nervous right now. uh, so beginning with the session, uh, I would like to ask you a landmark question of the show. That is, please tell us about your childhood. Like, where did you belong? Where do you belong from? Where did you study? Which school did you study? Where were you born? Were you an intelligent kid, or were you an average one? But I'm sure you must be the former one. And were you mischievous? Were you mischievous in a fun-loving way? Were you an introvert? All sort of that.
Okay. I was born in Patiala, brought up in Patiala. The whole of my education is based in Patiala. And finally, the career and the family is also settled in Patiala. So, regarding the nature, I was the only child. So, obviously mischievous. And study academically, I was the yeah, good scorer. I wouldn't say that is intelligent, but I was the good scorer. So I've studied in Fatima up to the matriculation level. After that, I've spent 2 years in Buddha Public School. I did my 12th. And after 12th, I pursued BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from Punjabi University itself. Not from this department though. That time we used to have BTech Computer Science and Engineering in a separate department. So that is where I did my graduation. Then post-graduation was completed from Baba Banda Singh Bahadur Engineering College, Fatehgarh Sahib, and in the same field, Computer Science and Engineering. And I've completed my PhD recently, last year, and that was from Punjab University itself again. That was my.
If I'm not wrong, Madhu is also from Fatima. Madhu, is it?
Yes, I am also from Fatima.
So there are a couple of Fatimites in the meeting.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned that you were a mischievous kid. That said, could you please tell us some incident in which you created some, mischievous act in a fun-loving way without being scolded or something like that?
I told you I was the only child, so was rarely scolded. So, especially then it's very difficult to. I was not very adventurous, so mischievous in a very controlled way. So, it will be hard recalling such an incident.
Also, ma'am, now that we have started talking about your childhood, one thing that occurs to me, or I recall about my childhood, is that since I was born in a coastal region, uh, our village used to have humongous coconut trees, big imli ke peड़, bargat ke peड़, and all. I used to play with children. I used to have a ball with the nature. I used to enjoy fishing. I used to take care of the cows. I used to take them to the playgrounds, play fields for gazing. These days, it occurs to me that internet and rapid digitalization, optical fibers have, taken the place of the nature. Like they have become a substitute of the nature. They have encroached upon that, adventures that the children used to have, or that I used to have in my childhood. My question to you is, how has AI influenced the childhood of the children? Like, has it become a bane in some way?
A big way, a big way. While studying, this class lectures also, we have had these discussions in the classroom also, that we do not require AI in each and every aspect of our life, in each every segment of our life. So that we are being forced into that. Like AI is supposed to be an extension of the human mind, not a substitute. But that is what is happening, and people are using their mind less often, if you observe, right? So that is obviously going the wrong way. AI, as far as I believe, as far as my understanding goes, should be used only as an extension of the scale. If you find a problem to which applying a single mind, a single human mind is not enough, and you need cascading, setup of minds working on that problem, and then you feel that you will be able to achieve a better solution. And if it is not possible in the physical world, if you do not have that bigger team of human beings, that would be the best situation to apply AI, when you can speed up and when you can scale up. So otherwise, it is being forced. It is a market, and as we observe in every aspect of our life, in the nutrition, in education sector, in whatever, you can go with this, what you call the fashion, right? Everything is centralized on the idea of industrialization, right? So you have to have that understanding that it is only a market being built around an idea, which is we can do without it completely. Okay, so that is
That said, through your answer, it occurs to me that it is quite ambiguous to, say what is good and what is bad, what is moral and what is immoral. Who draws the line? Who does the distinction between what is wrong, what can be done through AI, and what shall not be done through AI? Like, who has to do that?
You yourself. No, there is no organization. No government will draw that line for you. Nobody's going to warn you, right? It's an industry, and obviously someone or the other is gaining out of it, right? And others are just staying out of it. So if you are the client, if you are the customer, it's you who has to decide. And if you are planning to become a stakeholder, if you're planning to become a programmer or an AI designer, or in any way a contributor to the field of AI, so it is you who has to see that what are you applying AI for, and is it required? Is it the better way to solve that problem than employing actual human beings?
All right, ma'am. Actually, at this point, I recall my favorite poem by Wordsworth Longfellow. A couple of lines of that poem reads, "Between the dark and the daylight comes a pause in the day's occupation, and that is known as children's hour." In this day and age, that has become internet's hour, because as soon as the children wake up, they have their phones on their hands. Either they play games on that, or these days they use social media and all. And now I realize that I'm not the only one who shall ask the questions. I have along with me my couple of friends, Tanvi and Mata. So I would now like to move on to Tanvi.
So, ma'am, I'm very curious to know, so what are the most memorable moments of your college life?
College life. We used to be very. We used to like teachers. People are gurus. So I belong to that generation who still treat their teachers as gurus, and we still can't raise our voice beyond a certain level when we are interacting with them. And I'm lucky enough to have my teachers around me uh, as my guides, as my um, uh, guiding angels in the physical world, in the physical form. So uh, that is the kind of college life we had. We used to in between the lectures, we used to go out and sit in the garden or somewhere. And when we used to see the teacher coming towards the department, but towards the classroom, and for taking lecture, even from like far off, we used to rush inside and get settled before the teacher enters. And uh, that is the experience I would like to share with you.
Relate with it.
We are no different. We are no different.
Many of you are no different, but the equation has changed. I'm not saying it has become bad or it has become better. The relationship has changed, and I have enjoyed the change. I've never had, any um, any sad feeling about it. Never have had that. Yes. We were never so interactive with the teachers. I think there was a level of shyness which your generations have overcome, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Ma'am, you teaches a lot of different subjects like machine learning, AI, and all the subjects related to the computer domain. So my question is, what is the best thing about this whole domain, according to you? What is the best thing about this whole domain, जिससे स्टूडेंट्स को एक पर्सपेक्टिव मिले इस डोमेन के बारे में, जो स्टूडेंट्स काफी इसमें इंटरेस्ट नहीं बन रहा जिन स्टूडेंट्स का. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू यू कि एक एस्पेक्ट है जो उन्होंने शायद मिस कर दिया, या फिर ये बेस्ट चीज है इस पर्टिकुलर डोमेन की.
In AI, you mean AI, artificial intelligence?
This whole AI, machine learning, software engineering, TOC, these subjects.
The aspect that students who do not, who are not able to build the interest yet in this field, then they are missing out on the creativity aspect. This field is way more creative than any other engineering subject in computer science and engineering. So that is what they need to understand. That is what they need to see.
Yeah.
And until they see that creativity, scope of creativity that they can put into this field,
Yes,
till then they will not be interested. Yeah, nobody would be interested till then, because it's purely mathematical.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm sure that many students are just scared of the mathematical part.
मैम बट उसके लिए आई थिंक इस पूरे प्रोसेस का काफी प्रैक्टिकल ओरिएंटेड होना काफी जरूरी है, रादर देन फोकस्ड ऑन लेक्चर्स पार्ट. सो आई थिंक दिस इम्प्रूवमेंट, मतलब ये इम्प्रूवमेंट होनी चाहिए इंडियन एजुकेशन सिस्टम के पार्ट पे, कि थोड़ा प्रैक्टिकल ओरिएंटेड ज्यादा बनाए.
You don't have to depend on the system to be, for your development, for your personality development, and for your own personal development. My suggestion would be, if you just go ahead and try out and implement the smallest algorithm that you find in AI or machine learning, the simplest one, the smallest one. You get all kinds of help from the online portals that they are supporting AI, which are advancing the field further. So you can simply,
sorry, continue.
Even if you just copy a simple algorithm's code and just run it and just see the results, and that would be the starting point of interest. But you have to have that will. You have to have that. I have to do it. You cannot wait for the teacher or for the system or for your evaluation system to push you into that.
Yes, ma'am.
It has to be personal at the stage that you
In
are.
fact, I did the same thing when in my initial days with machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Yeah. These days, the amount of help that is available, you don't have to read through books and chapters to be able to, implement something. You can simply, just copy. You don't even have to copy, right? You have to see. You have to figure out one topic. You have to figure out one algorithm, and the whole setup is provided to you online, free of cost and freely accessible. You just have to execute it, and you have to see the beautiful results that are produced out of data. And I mean, I've seen students, they know all about databases and they have studied 4 subjects around databases, but they've never seen a real data set. They don't know what fields look like. Just basing your knowledge on definitions and the answers to the questions that you are given in your tests, and that wouldn't be enough. That will never build your interest.
Yes,
You have to
ma'am.
look at the real things.
मैम, अब महत्व की बात जहाँ पर उसने अधूरी छोड़ी, मैं वहीं से ही शुरू करना चाहूंगा। महत्व ने बात की मशीन लर्निंग के बारे में, तो मशीन लर्निंग में क्या आप हमें बता सकती हैं कोई बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग ऐसे क्वेश्चंस जिनके अभी तक मशीन लर्निंग ने आंसर्स फाइंड आउट नहीं किए हैं, लेकिन वो बहुत ज्यादा फेमस हैं, वो क्वेश्चंस बहुत ज्यादा फेमस हैं या बहुत ज्यादा ब्रेन स्क्रैचिंग क्वेश्चंस हैं, प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स जिनके अभी तक आंसर फाइंड आउट नहीं किए गए हैं?
मशीन लर्निंग एल्गोरिथम्स नहीं डेवलप कर पाए हैं, जिनको मशीन लर्निंग के थ्रू हम नहीं सॉल्व कर पाए हैं, ऐसी प्रॉब्लम्स।
यस मैम,
ऐसी प्रॉब्लम्स मोस्टली आपको मिलेंगी ह्यूमन बिहेवियर रिलेटेड। जब आप ये कोशिश करना चाहते हैं कि मशीन एक ह्यूमन बिहेवियर को एक ह्यूमनली वे में अंडरस्टैंड कर पाए। फॉर एग्जांपल lie detection, a machine learning based lie detector, which is which works accurately and which is successful enough to be applied in the real life scenarios.
ऑलराइट मैम, थोड़े दिन पहले मैंने एक टॉपिक पे रिसर्च करना शुरू किया था, जो अभी फार्मर्स का इशू चल रहा है। तो मेरे रिसर्च का क्वेश्चन ये था कि जो फार्मर्स का जो एमएसपीज है, क्या वो रियलाइज कर पा रहे हैं, मतलब क्या वो एमएसपीज उनको मिल रहा है फार्मर्स को, या जो एमएसपी उनको मिल रहा है उसमें और मार्केट प्राइसेस में क्या डिफरेंस है। तो वो उसके दौरान मैंने कुछ लोगों से बात की कि रिसर्च कैसे करते हैं, तो उन्होंने मुझे सुझाव दिया कि पहले रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ने पड़ते हैं आपको। तो उसके लिए मैं गूगल स्कॉलर्स पे गया, उसमें मैंने काफी सारे रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़े। तो लेकिन मुझे उस दौरान ये समझ नहीं आया कि रिसर्च हम एक्चुअली बोलते किसे हैं, रिसर्च की एक्चुअल डेफिनेशन क्या है। तो मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है कि आपके अकॉर्डिंग रिसर्च की डेफिनेशन क्या है। नंबर 2, जब हम इतने सारे रिसर्च पेपर पढ़ते हैं तो उसके बाद क्या हमको एक कोई रीजनेबल आउटपुट मिलता है उसका? बिकॉज मैंने गूगल स्कॉलर पे जितने भी रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़े, मुझे बहुत सारे ऐसे पेपर्स मिले जो कि पूरे थे भी नहीं, मतलब आधे थे और आधे तो पेड थे, मतलब उसके वो चार्जेस ले रहे थे। तो अच्छे रिसर्च पेपर्स हम कहाँ से पढ़ सकते हैं? और अगर हम 10, 12, 14 रिसर्च पेपर पढ़ते हैं तो क्या हम कह सकते हैं कि उसके बाद हमको एक रीजनेबल नॉलेज है अब रिसर्च स्टार्ट करने के लिए?
जो स्टार्टिंग विद जो आपने अपने क्वेश्चन के स्टार्टिंग में फार्मर्स वाला एस्पेक्ट लिया, उनका एग्जांपल लिया, इस केस में you will not find research papers which will report the ground reality. ठीक है, तो कुछ एरियाज ऐसे होते हैं जिनमें आपको you have to jump into the field if you want to carry out research. रिसर्च पेपर्स आपको किसी भी फील्ड में they will never be able to report they will never be able to give you the 3D view of the reality. They can present only one perspective. if you are limiting, अगर आप कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग की बात कर रहे हो, कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड जो टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट रिसर्च पेपर्स आपको टेक्निकल में भी जो नई टेक्निक्स बनी हैं वो दिखा रहे हैं, उनके रिजल्ट्स दिखा रहे हैं, या फिर उन्होंने कोई सर्वे किया है टेक्निकल, उसके रिजल्ट्स दिखा रहे हैं. तो there are certain layers, so you have to go through these layers and ultimately end up in the field to understand to be able to, like, be a true researcher. तो रिसर्च पेपर एक बहुत छोटा सा एस्पेक्ट है रिसर्च का, और टू मेनी रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ना इज डेफिनेटली नॉट एडवाइजेबल. आप पढ़ो रिसर्च पेपर्स, इट शुड बी लेवल्ड लर्निंग. आप स्टडी स्टार्टिंग करोगे जैसे रिव्यूज से, जो आपकी प्रॉब्लम, जो भी आप प्रॉब्लम पढ़ रहे हो उनको जिन्होंने रिव्यू किया है, जिन्होंने एक होलसम पिक्चर आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करी है, ऐसे पेपर्स पढ़ोगे. देन create your own view, create your own review, write it down, maybe write a paper of your own, उसको प्रेजेंट करो कहीं पे, उसका फीडबैक लो. तो वो होती है रिसर्च. जस्ट बाय रीडिंग व्हाट अदर पीपल हैव डन, यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू लर्न मच. रिसर्च का मीनिंग है लर्निंग. you want to learn and you want to apply, right? So it's very important to document your perspective, to document what you have generated in your mind after studying the research paper. वो डॉक्यूमेंट करो, देन यू मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट लेवल कि ओके मुझे ग्राउंड एक प्रॉब्लम समझ आ गई, अब इसको सॉल्व कैसे किया जा सकता है, तो उसके लिए क्या वेज है. फिर उनके रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ो, फिर अपना कुछ बनाने की कोशिश करो या उनको ही समराइज करके लिख लो, राइट? नो मैटर यू पब्लिश इट समवेयर और यू डू नॉट, at least you should have it, a document of your own, generated by you in front of you. Then you are researching. That is,
ऐसी कौन सी वेबसाइट्स हैं जहाँ पे हमें जेन्युइन रिसर्च पेपर्स मिल जाएंगे, जहाँ पे हमें पीयर रिव्यूड रिसर्च पेपर्स मिल जाएंगे? बिकॉज आजकल तो बहुत सारी ऐसी वेबसाइट्स हैं जहाँ पे रिसर्च पेपर होती जरूर हैं, लेकिन वो उनकी कोई क्रेडिबिलिटी नहीं होती बिकॉज वो पीयर रिव्यूड नहीं होते. तो ऐसी कौन सी अच्छी वेबसाइट्स हैं जहाँ से हमको रिसर्च पेपर हम पढ़ सकते हैं?
Instead of going to Google Scholar, I think you should go directly to the libraries, to the digital libraries. For example, you can go to ACM, you can go to the IEEE Explore, then you can go to the Science Direct, and there are so many repositories. There's Wiley, and there are so many publishers also, like World Scientific Publisher is very, they have a good collection, they have good quality journals. So you go to the libraries directly. You can spend like maybe 2-3 weeks, or maybe a month or so in getting familiar with these digital libraries and getting comfortable interacting with them, how to search, then how to browse through the journals that these libraries are putting forward. And then gradually you will be able to isolate that for my field, this particular library or these 2-3 libraries are most useful. They have concentrated results which are very suitable to my field of interest. Then you can limit your scope to those digital libraries, and the number might be, it could be less. You could go to fewer libraries, but they must be of supreme quality. So that is important. When you go to Google Scholar, they will show you every kind of matching result. So then you tend to be confused whether this is reliable or not. And these days, open access, you should also, being a student, and also you're outside the campus, your access is limited to these libraries. So you should search for open access journals. And gradually, hopefully, we are moving towards that, 100% open access research, hopefully very soon.
मैम एक चीज मैंने और रियलाइज किया है, मैं कैगल पे बहुत ज्यादा एक्टिव हूँ, और आप भी हमेशा हमको पढ़ाते वक्त कैगल का एग्जांपल देती हैं, कैगल का और गिथहब का. तो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ कि मैं जब भी कैगल पे कोई काम करता हूँ, कोई नोटबुक बनाता हूँ, तो उसमें मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि मैं एक तरह से एक बहुत ही लिमिटेड वे में रिसर्च कर रहा हूँ. क्योंकि जब आप उसमें नोटबुक्स बनाते हो तो उसमें बहुत सारी वैरायटी ऑफ कंसेप्ट्स आपके दिमाग में आते हैं, फिर आप उनको डिस्कशन में डालते हो अगर आपको उसके आंसर्स नहीं पता होते, फिर आप बहुत सारे लोगों के व्यूज जानते हो, तो एक काफी रिफ्रेशिंग एक्सपीरियंस होता है वो. तो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ कि आपका हमें जो आप इतना एग्जाम्पल आप देती हैं कैगल का, इसके पीछे वजह क्या है? मतलब क्या आप हमें किसी चीज की तरफ पॉइंट आउट करना चाह रही हैं? क्या आप कोई ऐसी स्पेसिफिक चीज चाहती हैं कि कैगल से वो हमको मिलती हो, या वो बाकी लोगों को ना पता हो, आप उन्हें बताना चाहें, या कैगल के बेनिफिट्स आप उनको बताना चाहें?
Practice. Practice is the only purpose that I ask you to involve yourself in such platforms, GitHub, Kaggle, and also exposure. When you enter these platforms, and when you see that people younger to you, school going children, and also many senior people who are who have a long experience of research, when everybody is there working in front of you at such a fast pace, I think it is very encouraging. So just it's just exposure to that environment, that books are the syllabus, and the books, it's not knowledge. Knowledge is getting your own hands dirty. I mean, applying those things, uh, encountering errors, failing miserably, that is research, right? Then asking each other that how will this be done? Learning from people outside your classroom and outside your department, outside your country also, right? So you get that exposure, and you get that. I think there's a very good feel. You have that feel good factor also.
Yes, ma'am.
Since you are in this field, you gain that confidence also, that I have done something, even if it is one very small algorithm that, like I said earlier, you can start with the smallest of the programs. But when you see results that you have generated from a new data set, it's a very good, it's a confidence boosting exercise, and it will lead you to a better way of research. And
That confidence part. Recently, I have won my maiden silver medal in discussion in Kaggle. That actually gives a whole lot of confidence, but that also takes a great deal of hard work to achieve
yes,
one.
you have to put in those hours.
मैम अगर आपको किसी philosophical topic पे research करनी हो, so what that would be?
That would be afterlife.
Okay.
I'm very interested in the scientific, this metaphysics and these subjects. I have a collection of books that I tend to complete. I aim to complete, but they are beyond my understanding. So that
Ma'am, for example, can you give one example of the book?
the the names and authors I will not be able to pinpoint right now. I have one lying around here only. It's called The Science and the Afterlife Experience, by the author is Carter.
Okay.
So,
And on that note, I would lastly like to ask you that, can artificial intelligence and socialism coexist? Because we have seen that wherever there is industrialization, there is rapid development in artificial intelligence. But I haven't seen a single example where there is socialism and there is widespread acknowledgement of artificial intelligence as well. Can these both things coexist?
socialism in what context? I didn't get.
Socialism means the opposite. We can certainly say that it is an opposite of industrialization. Like in socialism, we think about people first, not the industrialist. Like we think about what is good for the farmers. Are fertilizers good for the farmers? If they are not, we move on. We switch to manures. We do not do contract farming because they are harmful to our soil. These kind of things.
In certain fields, you can say, like in the medical field, you can say that AI can lead the way for socialism, or maybe we're just saying that it can be, you know, be a boon instead of being a bane in all the situations. So in politics also, provided the algorithms are not controlled and they are not manipulated.
I would want to come on to the last part of this session, which is there are some quick questions that I would like to ask. So, which subject did you hate the most as a student?
As a student, signals and systems.
Okay, ma'am.
You people, I don't think we have that subject. We used to have signals and systems.
Okay. Okay.
I still remember that book. I used to dread the
Ma'am,
textbook that we were used to refer to.
okay. Ma'am, what is your dream vacation?
Dream vacation at home.
Okay. Okay. Ma'am, what is your favorite dish to cook?
Cakes. I like baking cakes. I do that most often. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If you could take the students on a field trip to anywhere in India, where would you take them?
In India, field trip, that is difficult. Maybe to the campus, like this Infosys campus, maybe uh, field trip, if you are talking about the computer engineering field, so something like that, some industrial campus that they dream of landing in. So that would be a fun trip.
I thought you would say ISRO, because oftentimes you talk about ISRO when talking about statistics and all. So
Yes,
I thought ISRO.
didn't cross my mind even. That is also a good answer.
Ma'am, how do you react to the students bunking the class?
We don't have much in our hands when the students have already bunked the class. Yeah, I would advise that instead of bunking the classes, you could have an alternative to the class, maybe some discussion-oriented class if you do not want to study, or maybe some other kind of academic activity could be conducted. But bunking classes is bad. Do not bunk your class.
Uh, in the end, I would like to say that we all came here when the sun was almost above our head, and now that the evening is all set to spread its grace, we are ending this session on a very happy note, and a session that was hopefully well versed. And this all happened because of our honorable professor, Madam Bramleen Sidhu. She spent some time with us, and that we hopefully were expecting her to be, because she is a kind of person who likes to interact with the students. So I would like to hear from her some last words on that note.
Thank you. My last words would be a big thank you, and it was a pleasure. And I'm very happy at this initiative that you people have taken. It's the one of a kind, and I've never experienced such interaction before. So it was a huge, pleasure, and I'm very proud of you, students. And may God bless you, and may you achieve greater heights, very great heights, very soon in your life. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.